webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm responsible for all high schools in the Midwest for Labster. I previously worked in international higher education. I am a former high school English teacher, so I love meeting with different teachers and students and working with them to help them be successful in the classroom. So a little bit about what we're going to go over today is, again, introduce you to Labster, a little bit more about our platform and its content, how we build Labster into your courses, and then any questions you might have. Just know that after this call, one of my teammates will be reaching out to you to follow up with any questions that you might have, and you also will receive a recording of this video just in case you miss a few key points, or maybe one of your coworkers or colleagues wants to watch as well. So a little bit more about Labster. At a high level, we are virtual science labs that cover a wide variety of disciplines. We started out as an outreach program at the University of Copenhagen. Our CEO and co-founder were running into a bunch of issues as science teachers and as science students themselves. So as we continue to grow, we realize there are a lot of different ways that students will be able to benefit from the simulations, and nearly any real world scenario could be simulated. And that's lab safety, mastering techniques, and seeing things that you maybe cannot really see in the real world. So they give students the ability to walk into $1 million lab and try, make mistakes, and experiment in a safe, cost-effective environment on their own. Now, we mentioned our co-founder was running into issues as a teacher and as a student, and some of those issues were knowledge gaps, access to lab space, disengaged students, poor student preparedness, and poor conceptual understanding. As I mentioned, I'm a former high school English teacher, and we all know those students who raise their hand and say, "Hi, Miss Douglas, when am I going to use this in real life?" So that's an issue that we're running into every day, and our CEO saw that in the classroom as well. So our Labster platform contains over 200 different simulations, and each is a gamified case study covering 1 to 2 lectures in one lab practical session, typically taking around 30 minutes. Now we have simulations that are 5, 10, 15, 45 minutes long, so there's really something for every single course and class. Each simulation is built around a storyline that links the abstract theory and technique covered to real-world application. So as a student, you are required to complete every single step that you have to complete in a real wet lab, putting on your lab safety gloves, your goggles, your jacket, and in doing so, learning that true lab protocol. Now, instead of being a simple digitized version of a real wet lab, the platform allows you to learn the way that you couldn't really do in a real wet lab. We were just in the hospital, now we're in space, deep diving into different atoms and different lab equipment. We incorporate interactive cellular and molecular visualizations, MCQs, the ability to change variables. And as an educator, the most important thing for me is students can make mistakes. They can mix wrong acids, beakers can spill over, and they're making mistakes and learning from them in our Labster labs. And each simulation is graded, and the platform is integrated into the different learning management systems. There's quizzes and progress tracking along the way. Now, just jumping into a little bit more about Labster, here is our faculty resource page. And as you can see, we'll jump in and tell you a little bit more about our content and things that you can find. So right here, we have our simulations. And you can see we have over, I think, 20 different disciplines listed out right now. So if you jump into high school biology, you'll be able to see all the core simulations and the related simulations. And there's a ton of information and content here. But today I'm going to jump into our simulation for cellular respiration. And as you can see right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different simulations involving cellular respiration. What's great about this is students have the ability to learn and grow with Labster. They're not just doing one simulation a semester, maybe the following year repeating it. There's different learning levels and different knowledge bases to help students really grow alongside the platform. So right now I'm going to jump into cellular respiration and talk a little bit more about this simulation. Now, included are not only our virtual labs, every single simulation comes with a lab manual and a lab report. These are awesome, tangible pieces to keep in the classroom. So right here, our lab manual is a deep dive into the lab. You're covering your learning techniques, your learning objectives, and it's completely customizable for your course and your curriculum. So you can go in, edit, take things out, take things in, highlight, add in a word bank, white out some of these words, really customizable, but all the information is there for you. Another great thing is the lab report template. Again, a great tangible reflection piece for students to fill out open-ended questions while they're going through one of our labs. Now, again, we're going to jump into cellular respiration, measuring energy consumption during exercise. So I'm just going to walk you through the lab. Now, I am so happy to be with you all today, but unfortunately, I am not the one guiding the students through all of the labs. That is Dr. One, and she's our trusty lab assistant. She's getting students out of trouble when they're stuck and just walking them through the next stages and phases of the lab. Here we have our lab pad. It is home base for the students. They can go in and they can answer their quiz questions. They can read up on the theory, say that throughout the simulation you fly to Mars and pick up some samples that will live in media, progress tracking, as well as your quiz scores. Now, all of our simulations, again, reach back out to real life storylines. As I mentioned before, we all have those students. When am I going to use this in real life? And Labster really helps the students connect science to real world possibilities. Right now, we're at the basketball court. Our point guard is looking very tired, and our captain has all of this energy. And we're saying, what's going on? Big game day today. Why is the point guard so tired? We have to figure out what's going on. So Dr. One and our lab pet will kind of guide us through collecting some blood samples and bringing them back to the lab. Now, once we are back in the lab, Dr. One is very, very strict, and she will not let you through those doors until you follow that lab safety protocol. So putting on that lab safety coat, gloves, and your goggles before entering the lab. Now, this is great just because students really get to now interact with the lab safety protocol, which is tough in some classes because you can't always have eyes on all 30, 50, and sometimes 100 of your students. Now, as we enter the lab, your students get to become really comfortable with what equipment is available to them. Every single Labster lab is filled with different equipment, might look a little bit different. The new state-of-the-art technology is all included. So you see we have a holocraft table, and we're going to get started on our respiratory workbench. Now, here is an example of a quiz question. It is 10 points if you get it right, -2 if you get it wrong. And A, B, C, and D constantly rotate. If a student does get stuck, they can always jump in and go in and view that theory. So as we continue through, now we get to my favorite part of the lab, which is really that hands-on experience where students get to practice their lab skills and techniques. So what we're going to do here is grab some blood samples, test them in the glucose meter, test them in the lactate meter, and really just start building a hypothesis. Now, in a normal wet lab, sometimes we have the bell ring and the students run to lunch, or if something gets messed up and something spills, it takes a while to reset the lab. In the Labster laboratory, what's really awesome is students get to repeat their lab techniques 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times throughout the lab. They're always acting as the lead scientist, and they're always getting to repeat those lab skills and techniques, which we all know is so important for the classroom and learning. So for this lab specifically, we actually run back to the court during halftime, get some more blood samples, and continue to test and build that hypothesis. So as doing so, our lab pad is keeping track of all of the data, and we're following that lab safety protocol by always putting things in the hazardous waste bin. Now, as I jump ahead a bit, we are actually going to jump right on into the mitochondria, which is awesome for students who are visual learners, and they really get to see full circle what's happening in today's lab. I mean, they started out at the basketball court, they entered the lab, they started testing the blood strips, but now they really get to see what's happening in the mitochondria of the point guard and the captain, and it really pulls that full circle picture for the student. Now, as I mentioned, I am a high school English teacher, so I am not fully going to try to explain what's happening here, but Dr. One gives a really digestible, easy to understand visual as well as instructions on what's happening inside of the mitochondria. As we move forward a bit into our lab, we actually are introduced to our trusty lab sidekick, Mr. Mouse. No animals were harmed in the making of today's class, so no one is skipping just to save the frogs and the animals. And we will go in and test the blood oxygen levels of the mouse and just kind of, again, build that hypothesis, start coming to a conclusion. So as this lab comes to an end, you can see we are almost done. We're following up those lab techniques. It just turns out that our point guard missed the big pasta dinner the night before the game. He didn't go to the pasta party, and that's why the captain has all of that energy, and the point guard is a bit tired. So you can see right here, we have our quiz scores, our progress. We're about 80% done. This is all linked directly into your learning management system, and the quizzes, the progress, the timing can all be automatically updated to a teacher dashboard. Now, there are a few different ways that you can use Labster in the classroom. Just based on if you're in an online course or in a classroom or pre-lab exercise, we have students and teachers learning different ways all throughout the country and all throughout the world. So there really is an option for everyone. Again, we would be the worst ed tech company if we didn't have data to prove this. Excuse me, the study showed that 76% of higher increase in knowledge for the group using virtual labs compared to groups that learn the same material in just a lecture. So the data is there to prove that Labster, alongside your traditional normal teaching methods, is really, really great for the students. Now, when it comes to implementing Labster, it's very easy. Again, we integrate with a bunch of different learning management systems. And Labster is completely all online. There's no plugins, there's no extra links or JavaScripts. It's very easy to implement, and we make sure that all teachers, students, and faculty are very comfortable and confident in using the platform. So I am so excited to introduce Labster to you guys today and to show you a sneak peek into one of our labs. I would love for you guys to go in and play around. So right now I'm going to answer any questions that you might have. You can actually plug in any of your questions right in the chat box. And I see a few are coming in right now. The first one, can I receive a free trial? Yes, I would be so excited for everyone on this call to jump in and explore our content. One of my team members will be reaching out to you after this webinar, and they will get you set up with your free access and your free trial so you can jump in, explore the content, play around, and I cannot wait to hear what you think. So again, one of my team members will definitely be reaching out to you. Can you see students' progress? Yeah, as I mentioned, we integrate with learning management systems, and on that teacher dashboard, you really are able to see what labs the student has completed, what their scores are, and where their progress is. It just helps you really manage all the students in all of your different classes and just see where they're at, their Labster labs. Now I'm seeing, okay, one last question is, do you have chemistry simulations? And the answer to that is yes. As I mentioned before, we have a bunch of different disciplines, all the way from chemistry to biology to animal physiology, and there really is a simulation for all students and all teachers. So that looks like the last question coming in. Again, one of my team members will be reaching out to you. So please feel free to ask any other questions if you do have them. I see one coming in. How do I get a voucher? Again, my team members will be reaching out to you and they'll provide you with the access. It's very simple to go jump in and play with our content. So we'll get you up and running as soon as possible. So thank you all so much for joining. Again, a recording of this call will be sent to your email. Share it with your colleagues, rewatch if you missed anything. But I cannot wait to get Labster set up with your students and really just help you out for the upcoming school year. Have a great rest of the